Nick Marivets of Locked On Cyclones. Two teams in the Big 12, to me, have stood out above the rest. I think that Arizona State is good. I think Houston's good. I still think TCU or Utah or BYU should be in the conversation to go to Arlington. But the two schools that have stood out the most, Iowa State and Texas Tech. They, to me, are number one and number two. And whichever order you put them in is probably pretty fair right now. Iowa State with a massive win against Arizona, multiple Power 4 wins this season. Texas Tech beating the crap out of Utah on the road 34-10. Are we talking about the two best teams in the Big 12 when we're talking Red Raiders and Cyclones?
I think so. And actually, just browsing their schedules, I think this is going to be the Big 12, kind of matchup, the Big 12 tournament matchup here. I just don't see Iowa State losing a lot of games the rest of the way. And looking at Texas Tech, they don't have a ton of challenge on their schedule either, with Oklahoma State, Kansas State, UCF, West Virginia to round out the year. Like, I can see Texas Tech dominating through Big 12 play versus Iowa State. I think they've got enough here to make a push for what would be an at-large bid. I think they have enough strength in their schedule, but I think they win at least, 2, 4, 6, 7 games. I think they win 6, maybe 5 of those. And I think they'll be in the Big 12 championship, and I think it'll be Texas Tech. Now, between the two, right now, you're going to have to look at what happened against Arizona for Iowa State. A lot of guys going down late in that game. They're going to impact the rest of the season. We just got word that Jeremiah Cooper is officially done for the year. Something with his knee, some sort of ligament. The speculation was ACL, but either way, it doesn't matter because he's not going to be playing. So there are wrinkles to Iowa State the rest of this way, but I think what we've seen on offense is very promising. I really like where Rocco's at. Did make one mistake late in this game, but that's fine. I like where Taylor Mauser's at calling plays. I like where we're at with the tight ends, where Chase Sowell is blasting onto the scene right now. It's hard to say that Iowa State isn't at least in the top 3 in the Big 12. And I know Utah fans right now want to have their piece, but I can't see Utah in that conversation. I know you brought them up.
Yeah, I think Utah is still a contender. Given their schedule the rest of the way, I think that they likely go into their BYU game undefeated. I think BYU goes into that game undefeated as well. That is going to be, I'll be there. Hand up, people have been asking me. I'll be there at the Holy War. It's going to be awesome. This is Texas Tech's rest of the way. At Houston, here's the deal. This is a sneaky Houston team. The defense is really strong. Texas Tech now has 2 really good quarterbacks in Baron Morton and Will Hammond. They've got an easy ability, I think, to win that game. But it could be a scare. Kansas at home should be a Texas Tech win. On the road against Arizona State is tough. Can the Sun Devils prove that they're still worth their snuff in the Big 12? Also, keep in mind, Texas Tech just burned their bye week and won't have a break until late November. November 22nd, I think, is their next bye week. So it's about to get real for the Red Raiders. Of the rest of their slate, Houston, Kansas, BYU is in there. The last 2, UCF and West Virginia, very winnable. Do you see a Texas Tech team that's a lock for Arlington?
Yeah, I do. I think this is a very good team, and honestly, to bring up the schedule, it feels like a bit of a cop-out because you're kind of ignoring what the caliber of the team is at that point, in my opinion, right? Like when I looked at the beginning of the season, I just look at general strength of schedule. And when I talk about the schedule the rest of the way here, I don't necessarily want to look past the team. I just think it's worth mentioning. Texas Tech is a very good team, a team very capable of making it to the Big 12 title game. And obviously you mentioned like Houston, not going to be a gimme. Arizona State, not going to be a gimme. It looks like Kansas State might be back on track. Which track is that? But you know what I'm saying. So I'm not saying they're going to walk their way to the Big 12 championship game, but just looking at a few of their games, they're going to have favorable matchups. Luckily, Iowa State doesn't have to play Texas Tech until that point. I do think that helps probably both of these teams in the grand scheme of maybe college football playoffs or whatever. I think these are the 2 top teams in the Big 12, and they'll face each other once probably in the championship game, but luckily not before that.
Yeah, let's take a look deeper analytically wise and efficiency wise at what Iowa State is doing this season, because those will tell us a lot. We'll compare them in this segment to Cincinnati, who they play this week. Iowa State, EPA wise, it's efficiency metrics. It's like it's tracking your yards, every play that you do, and how efficient you are. 42nd in the country throwing the football. Rocco Becht hasn't looked elite. He has looked like a good to great quarterback in the Big 12. He's not a Heisman contender right now, but he's a good to great quarterback, and that's what I think can win you a Big 12 championship. We learned that Sam Leavitt may not be an elite quarterback. He's a good to great quarterback who went to the college football playoff last year. For Iowa State, 42nd throwing the football, 95th running the football. It's the defense where they've made their bet, and the efficiencies still aren't great. To me, that shows for an undefeated Iowa State team who has beaten quality opponents, the best may still be out there, and I don't think that's the worst thing in the world.
No, I will say, though, you say Rocco's not elite, and okay, we can have our differences.
Elite, that's a big word, man. Elite's a big word.
That's fine. I'm okay with that. But I think we can both agree that Rocco's rushing stat line against Arizona was, in fact, elite. If you don't have it up, I'll read it to you. Rocco had 9 rushes for a negative 10-yard day with 3 touchdowns. That's pretty elite. I don't know if you can beat that. I have never seen
negative yardage. Okay, yes.
Negative yardage, but 3 touchdowns on 9 carries there. No, when you look at the offense versus the defense for Iowa State, the biggest thing I want to point out is it does look like the offense is coming around. Chase Sowell had an explosion of offense against Arizona. Yeah. Now, is part of that because of the way that Arizona runs their defense? A little bit, yeah. And Brad Eskelson did have a look, but it was on a trick play. It seemed like the tight ends were involved, but honestly, this receiving chart is way different than anything we've seen up until this point in the season, which indicates to me we're starting to see a little bit of a shift in where the priorities lie for Taylor Mauser and this offense, where Rocco is looking. I think there is upside on the offense. The defense is almost the exact opposite with the injury situation. Don't know what's going on with Big Citrus. Don't know what's going on with Kaijon Cummings-Coleman at this moment in time of recording. We know Jeremiah Cooper, like I said, already out. So, yeah, we've got John Tez. He was killing it against Arizona, had a really good day. Marcus Neal, like a bunch of big names on this defense. Tamatoa, Ike. We don't need to play the name game here. But I do wonder what the rest of the season will look like and how John Heacock's going to put them in position, because it's going to look different. It is absolutely going to look different. Like, don't forget about Trey Bell either, another name that we haven't really seen play a ton of starting minutes, but a guy who is very capable of it. And Matt Campbell talked about that in his post-game presser. So offense versus defense, to really round out your question there, I do think you're right. There is room for potential, especially on the offensive side of the ball, but a lot of things shifting at this point in the season. Yeah,
injuries notwithstanding, because we'll figure out how Iowa State looks as they move pieces around. Again, I still think these are the 2 best teams in the Big 12. Texas Tech, number 10 in the country throwing the football, number 107 efficiency-wise running it. That's not very good, but their defense, number 40 against the pass, number 3 against the rush. That's what makes them so deadly. That's what would put them ahead of Iowa State if they played on a neutral site tomorrow. But again, they could still play at a neutral site at the end of the season and both be undefeated, which would be the best case scenario for the Big 12 we get to in the college football playoff, and at large would be awesome. Coming up, they're doing it again. Utah wants to go to the Big 10. Locked on Big 12. Bang. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is exactly where I go on any given Saturday. And I say, you know what? I think Iowa State's good. They're a 3.5-point favorite against Arizona. I think they're going to win by 40 points. So I just put all of my money into the alternate line at minus 10.5. And when it hits, I get all of my money back plus a whole lot more from FanDuel. FanDuel is a great way to make the game come alive for me. With the NFL going on as well, I'm a Cowboys fan, which is brutal, man. It's brutal. But I can take my mind and eyes off the Cowboys and just watch somebody else. I'll put $100 on the New York Football Giants. So you pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 right now if you're a new customer. $300 in bonus bets if you put down $5 and it hits. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. FanDuel.com to download that app today. FanDuel.com is exactly where you want to go to get started with FanDuel. It's great. I win a lot of money on there.